How's it going, everybody? As the Daybreak Show continues on, it's time for our Sheriff Sit-Down, presented by our great friends at Our Community Credit Union. Ryan Spurling and Trevor Severance are here with me. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Saw you guys on the big TV the other day. Q13 Fox came to town, and tell me about that. You guys came upon the most amazing scene at Vance Creek, right?
Yeah, they wanted to go up and see because they'd heard, that many agencies are being depleted budgetarily wise, having to do a lot of these big search and rescues. And one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is, for example, when we do a search and rescue mission off of the high steel bridge, we have to use, what is it, Trevor, a 600-foot piece of rope?
Two 600 feet ropes at a time.
And those ropes are $2 a square foot, or $2 a linear foot, and we can only use it once according to the Washington Administrative Code because it's a search and rescue mission. It's not just like normal rock climbing. There's very specific, stringent guidelines. So they came to do a story on that and how dangerous it is out there and what kind of draw on our resources these type of rescues cause.
And so we've been to the High Steel Bridge before, and you've talked about the rescue operations that you've done there. And we've also talked about Vance Creek and the knuckleheads that show up there seeing they want to get their fake internet points or whatever. And that's just a real dangerous situation for people to be out there. It's private property too, right?
Correct. The Vance Creek trestle is private property. The High Steel Bridge is actually property of the U.S. Forest Service, interestingly enough. It's a closed area by federal forest order. Anywhere except for the bridge deck and the water itself, anything 100 yards either end of the bridge and 200 yards out either side is a closed area. So
Really?
nobody is supposed to be going in there. And there's used to be plenty of signage. It's all been ripped down. Every time we put it up, they tear it back down. So, and that's been closed for many, many years, but people don't heed the warnings and they enter into that 37-story deep canyon. And if you've never been down there, it may be one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, but it's one of the most scary places I've ever been because I've been in and out of there for 15 years.
And you have traditionally gone and had to do rescue operations and recovery operations. And, I'm thinking about what you were saying on the rope, and I'm sure there's, the tensile strength on there, and you don't want to have that used for the next time you have to go for an operation, especially if it's used for officers like yourselves. So that is a huge issue there. I mean, what can you do? The Forestry Service only has a handful of people working for it. You guys have great partnerships with them, thankfully. But what more can be done to dissuade people from showing up there?
We're exploring some stuff right now.
The only main thing we can do at this point without some sort of drastic changes to access is to educate people. Going there, we're still missing people that we have never found in there, that we cannot. And last year on a recovery mission, trying to find somebody who jumped off the bridge, we almost lost 2 of our deputies. One of them took a giant boulder to the face, and he's still not back to work.
Wow.
So the risk we have to weigh what's it worth? How many human lives is it worth to recover somebody who's already passed, based on their decisions, either jumping in and if it's a rescue, there's somebody down there that needs help. The legalities aside of whether they should have been there or not, we are going to go and we're going to get them out.
We may seek restitution if they're in a closed area, and that's something we're exploring as well.
Mm-hmm. But it's like I said, it's one of the most hazardous places I've ever been. And being a guy who's personally been under that bridge in that canyon working these missions, I never want to go back.
Sure. This is just one part of the search and rescue operations that you do across the county. We have so much waterways that I know you guys are looking at all the time and trying to be out there and make sure things are going there as summer is approaching. Right now we're kind of in the middle of June, kind of nearing July, and although the water temperature in the first couple inches may be warm, as soon as you get lower, it is very cold, and that can cause problems for folks too.
Absolutely, and Sergeant Severance also is the supervisor of our Marine Patrol unit. But before we get there, could I back up
Please.
for just a second?
Yeah.
We did take the camera crew to the Vance Creek Bridge, like you said, and when we got there were hammocks hanging from the superstructure along with a tightrope, basically. And while we got there and the camera set up, there's a gentleman doing the tightrope across under the superstructure, and he fell, and he had a bungee cord. I understand the need for excitement. I was in the military for a lot of years and all the other things. I understand that. But there's places you can do really exciting, dangerous things, and it's not illegal. You do it out here, it's illegal. You're criminally trespassing, as well as you're putting other people in danger. And even if you're prepared and skilled, if something goes wrong, the time to respond for a rescue unit is very stretched out. It's going to be a delayed response to gather the resources we need and to get up in there. And we still may be dealing with calls for service because we have 24,000 911 calls a year that we deal with. So to send up a whole bunch of resources up there, it takes us a while. So even skilled, prepared people need to be prepared to stay overnight in case something happens so that we can rescue them.
And with that, 99% of the search and rescue resources in this state are volunteer. It's their own time, it's their own money. They can get restitution for miles driven and equipment damage. We have a unique team that we built a decade ago.
We had to.
Just based on the steel bridge and these not having resources to get there in a timely manner. That's our Special Operations Rescue Team, which is comprised of deputies in partnerships with local fire departments. And we come together and work together, but we're probably the only one at this state. There's one other that I used to know of in Chelan County of a paid rescue team to go in and do that. We still rely on volunteers when it comes to a steel bridge mission or anything up in that canyon. Olympic Mountain Rescue is much more skilled at that than we are. As volunteers, they practice it all the time. That's their passion. We don't get that opportunity because we have so many diverse things that we have to work on.
Yeah, you have a huge county to deal with. So, did these people at Vance, did they know that there was going to be a camera crew here, or
no, they had no
is it just
idea.
happened to be that you showed up there?
The cameraman said, "Hey, can we go to Vance Creek?" And I said, "You got to walk a little bit." And we went in there, and as soon as we get there, this is what we see. So there was no knowledge that this was going to happen, nor did they know.
And that's Green Diamond land?
That is Green Diamond property.
And what are some of the partnerships and conversations you have with them on ways to alert you quicker if there are people that show up there? I mean, is that even something that is...
No, there's no mechanism. It's not monitored. Nobody's there all the time. The only time we know that anything goes wrong at the steel bridge or at Vance Creek Threshold is when somebody finally gets a chance to call 911.
Yeah, could be too late by then.
But they've done a lot to try to keep people off, from signage to tearing off the tracks and the wood to putting concertina wire around the structure so that you can't climb up, but it gets torn down and there's other places they can access it.
What are some of the other things as we get through into summer that you want to make sure that folks in Mason County are keeping aware of?
Well, we'll go back to the water thing you were talking about earlier.
That's a huge draw here in this county. We have a lot of accessible lakes plus 2 large bodies of salt water. Mason Lake being our most popular and most problematic, actually. And again, limited resources. We get out where we can. If people are being safe, following the rules, having the proper equipment, wearing life jackets, please, especially on paddle sports. Paddle sport fatalities are up in this state. People don't think about being on a kayak or a paddleboard or a canoe and having the hazards and dangers. But weather comes up, especially if you're in the salt water, and the water, as you said, Jeff, is cold. Yeah. Under that first foot, even in August, the first foot's warm. You get under that at all, and it starts pulling the heat right out of you, and hypothermia comes on quick. So having a life jacket, everybody needs to have a life jacket on, or accessible. I would prefer on when they're out on a boat. Drinking and boating, have a designated captain, following the rules. A lot of people don't know that there's a traffic pattern in Mason County on the water. It's counterclockwise. Everybody's supposed to go counterclockwise. And we see it all the time where that's disregarded. Many of them come in from out of the area. Mm-hmm. And we have issues, a lot of complaints on Mason Lake of noise and reckless operation of what we call over the transom boats with the big exhaust, shoot the big rooster tail. And that's something we're trying to work on. It's not illegal in this county to do that like it is in some other counties, but it's causing a quality of life issue for a lot of people on that lake.
Do you have the volunteer opportunities for marine looking, being out on the boats, watching out for people, like search and rescue volunteer operations? Is there a marine portion of that?
There is not. The struggle with the marine portion stuff is based on what level of laws they are between county ordinances and misdemeanors. We have to catch, in state law, we have to catch them doing it.
Okay.
It's something we have to see.
Yeah.
We get, and it's funny, we get this from most of the lakes. Well, you were out on the lake today, thank you, but as soon as you left the water, that's when everything happened. I said,
Right.
no, I know. We're the most visible thing out there. One lap around Mason Lake and the water's clear.
Yeah.
And then we wait, and as soon as we hit the trailer and it leaves the boat launch, the word goes out and they're right back to doing it. So we can only deal with what we can find as it happens. We'd love to have things reported. The more calls for service we get on the lakes, that's how I determine how often we're going to be on which bodies of water per year. I actually literally tally them up. It's the only fair way to do it.
Data driven.
Whoever has the most gets the most attention. So we can try to address those problems, try to address it through education and enforcement.
Well, you know, Mason County is a beautiful place to live, and it's a great place to recreate. Unfortunately, we do have some of those issues where folks come in and want to do that, but you guys are doing a good job as best you can to monitor all, 60,000 people in the county, those so many square miles. It's hard to get from one part to the other. You guys are doing a great job. The Sheriff Sit Down here this week and every week, presented by our Community Credit Union with Ryan Spurling and Trevor Severance. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.